Tabe has just released Arc 7 Chapter 22, and this will be a summary of that chapter. I highly recommend you check out my Arc 7 Chapter 21 summary if you haven't already. Anyways, let's get into the video. The chapter starts as time rewinds before the events of the last chapter. We have Subaru entering the assembly hall and asserting that there may be a way to execute the mission with 0 deaths. Subaru and Abel again talk about human casualties, which can happen in war, Abel referring to it as human resources, something that Subaru doesn't like the idea of since it denigrates people to being numbers rather than actual people. Abel questions if Subaru could come up with an idea, especially since he's been blinded with anger. Subaru stares at his right hand and reflects on what's actually happened over the course of this arc, referring to numerous good things that have happened, such as his arm coming back after being blown off, Rem awakening, and meeting people like Flop and Medium. Despite getting into trouble, he has had moments of good luck. Luck and disaster were essentially two sides of the same coin. All of the issues he has faced also crops up in his mind, but whilst this wears down his soul, this friction ignites a fire inside of Subaru. We see that Rem, Utakata and Lewis appear at the entrance of the assembly hall. The group again discuss being able to use a loophole from Flop to get into the city, however it's something that wouldn't work. Maybe something under a time of peace would be possible, but during a state of war it would be unlikely. Furthermore, Todd is an issue. The person who cornered Subaru is very shrewd. He's someone who might leave open a loophole and then use it as a trap for the group. So just because a loophole exists doesn't mean it's actually a good thing. Plus Todd might identify and close any holes, so getting into the city wouldn't be possible anyway. A surprise attack wouldn't work due to this. This is the conclusion Subaru came to. Subaru was actually staring at Flop during this, and this actually unnerved Flop. The reason for this was because Subaru remembered Flop being killed by Todd's axe, something that he wouldn't allow to happen again. Abel agreed that a surprise attack wouldn't work, which surprised Subaru. Subaru stated that he was shocked that Abel admitted that he was wrong. Abel clarifies his position. He states that using a loophole to launch a surprise attack is not advised. However, using a loophole on its own is perfectly okay if you do something else. Abel states to paralyze the city, you can still bring things inside. In other words, poison. Subaru, of course, is against the idea after personally experiencing the poison himself and dying to it, of course referring to the use of the Shudrakian poison. Abel and Subaru argue over the idea, which again is a battle of their personal values on life. Flop jumped in to break up the arguing and said they should speak calmly. Abel passes the baton to Subaru and tells Subaru to get the information from Flop if he has an idea. They then get further interrupted by Rem, who's staring at Subaru, asking if there's a way which isn't a bloody reality or a faint dream. This actually bolstered Subaru's resolve, who looked over everyone in the hall and stated he knew a way and required Flop's help. Flop was of course confused since he was a merchant and didn't have any strength. However, Subaru corrected him. He had a natural talent, which was his face. This confused Flop and the people in the hall, and Flop touched his face. Mizelda jumped in and agreed with Subaru that Flop was beautiful. However, Abel and Flop are starting to lose hope in Subaru's idea. We see that Mizelda's aesthetics of beauty and ugliness is what gave Subaru this idea of a bloodless operation. Subaru asked Flop to come with him before turning to Mizelda, stating that you dye your hair and apply tribal patterns, so you must have makeup. Can you lend me those tools? And the scene then changes. Upon entering, Subaru could tell people were speechless, not because of any negative emotion, but because of awe. Flop was shocked and Subaru states that his name is now Flora. Subaru grabbed Flora's shoulders and we see that the makeup and clothing he's been dressed in makes him very beautiful. This was the work Subaru created, a Flop-Flora hybrid, and with this they can siege the city. Beauty can be created. After unveiling Flora to the crowd, Rem asked if Subaru was being serious or messing around, and she had a very cold expression. Subaru reaffirmed that he was very serious, and Rem was extremely disappointed and was looking at Subaru coldly, saying that she shouldn't have believed in him. Subaru then states that the way she's jumping to conclusions is not good, and the way she's looking at him reminds him of Ram, which causes Rem to be confused. I'm putting in a quick plug to my video called Rem's Sickness, where I pointed out that Rem in Arc 7 is very similar to Ram, so if you haven't watched that video I do recommend it, but anyways, let's get back on with the chapter. Abel jumps in and asked if the aim was Dhikr Ottoman. After all, he was a womanizer, so having beautiful women to bait him in would let down his guard. Subaru remembers back to when Jamal said they would give Rem to Dhikr Ottoman. So with Flora, now they could potentially get Dhikr Ottoman without any bloodshed. Flop is scared, but Subaru states he would be participating also. Zelda grabbed Subaru's shoulders and expressed doubt at his looks. Subaru took her hand and said that he would show her that beauty can be created. The group then talk about how to bait Dhikr Ottoman, and the result is to do a party. However, due to the state of the city, Dhikr has no reason to join a party. Rem again asks if Flop is going along with the joke, and Flop asks Lewis for help. However, Lewis doesn't actually recognize that Flora and Flop are the same person. Abel then questions if Subaru is suitable for going alongside Flop, telling Subaru to look in the mirror. Abel then offers himself to also partake in the plan, much to Mazelda's excitement. Subaru of course realizes that ever since he met Abel in the Budheim jungle, Abel has been making gambles, and this is simply another gamble for Abel to partake in. Subaru then states that he learned that cross-dressing is the best way to attack a general's mind from a book, and Rem doubts him. As they decide on what to do, Subaru states that Abel's name will be Bianca, but Abel said that he doesn't care about the pseudonyms they use and to call them whatever. They then ponder if they can use Kuna and Tarita. They need people who had power to shut down Dhikr Ottoman if needed, and people who didn't draw attention like Holly or Mazelda, or identified them as the people of the Shadrakian tribe. In other words, they needed to just be feminine. Rem then goes on to volunteer herself alongside Tarita and Kuna, but Subaru rejects her. This does make Rem mad, and she asks why he always gets her out of harm's way. Subaru agrees that, of course, he wants her to be safe, but it's not that. One of the reasons is because if Rem joins in, their chances of success would actually go down because she has been seen by the Imperial soldiers of the city. This is the reason why they cannot use Medium's help either. She was seen, so when they go through the checkpoint, the guards would of course know who they are, and of course they could also not use Louis Arneb because she's been seen also. However, Subaru has been seen, so he would cause a problem. However, he corrects everyone, stating that Natsuki Subaru has been seen. However, Natsumi Schwartz hasn't been seen. This is something that he would have to show them visually for proof so they believe him. Subaru brings up Tarita and Kuna, and of course Mazelda grants Subaru permission to use them in the operation. Mazelda is interested in Subaru's plan. The people of the Shadrak respect Abel and Subaru's valor, and here they will respect their intellect. The best people of course have a combination of both. Tarita and Kuna both agree and nod to go along with Subaru. We see that Kuna also agrees to come with Subaru since she's really interested in Subaru's makeup skills. With this, the plan is set into motion. They would have to prepare very fast. Subaru has a final talk with Rem, and Rem states that she asked Subaru for a plan, and this was the plan, so she can't begrudge Subaru for it. After this conversation dies down, Medium appears, and she's looking for Flop, but cannot find him. Flop states that he's standing right there, and Medium is shocked. In other words, not even Medium could recognize Flop cross-dressing, so this was a great positive for their operation, and the chapter ends there. There's an author's note that states that Subaru and his cross-dressing appears in side stories and not in the main web novel. So yeah, most people don't know about Subaru's cross-dressing, so this is why reading the side stories is very important, guys. As for my thoughts on the chapter, there's nothing much to really add because we kind of knew the direction it was going in. But it's good to see that we get Subaru's cross-dressing character in the main continuity now. So I look forward to see where it's going, and thank you for watching, and thank you to my channel members. See you guys next time.